What could this man have realized that drove him to hang himself to death? Only hours earlier, Ahithophel believed everything was going according to plan. Then one decision changed everything. To understand what he realized, we must go back to the beginning of Ahithophel's story. Ahithophel came from Gilo, a town in the hills of Judah. For many years, he served King David as one of his most trusted advisors. Whenever David had to make an important choice, he listened closely to Ahithophel's advice. People trusted Ahithophel's words almost as much as they trusted a message from God. Ahithophel was not a soldier, and he did not lead an army into battle. However, his advice could change what David and Israel's leaders decided to do next. His years beside David also taught him how the king responded to danger and war. During those years, David's son Absalom secretly gained support from many Israelites. Absalom later went to Hebron, announced that he was king, and started a rebellion against David. While Absalom was offering sacrifices there, he sent someone to bring Ahithophel from Gilo. Absalom did not just want another man or soldier to join his rebellion. He wanted the trusted advisor who had helped David make many important decisions. Ahithophel accepted Absalom's request, left his home, and joined the rebellion against King David. Ahithophel made Absalom's rebellion much stronger when he chose to join it. He had worked closely with David and knew many of the king's commanders. Absalom could now ask Ahithophel how David might prepare for danger or an attack.
David will place his best commanders here, by the gates.
Someone soon told David that the people of Israel were following Absalom. David decided to leave Jerusalem before Absalom's forces could reach the city. But Ahithophel joining Absalom made the situation even more dangerous for David. David knew Ahithophel could use the king's secrets against him. Ahithophel could help Absalom choose the best time and place to attack. David quickly left Jerusalem with his servants, loyal soldiers, and many people from his household. As David climbed the Mount of Olives, he prayed about his former advisor. David said, "Lord, please make Ahithophel's advice foolish." David's friend Hushai met him near the top of the mountain. Hushai had torn his clothes and put dust on his head to show his sadness. David told Hushai to go back to Jerusalem instead of escaping with him. Hushai would pretend to support Absalom and try to stop Ahithophel's plans. He reached Jerusalem when Absalom entered the city with Ahithophel and his supporters. Absalom asked Hushai why he had left his friend David. Hushai answered that he would serve the man chosen by the Lord and the people of Israel. He also said he would serve David's son, just as he had served David before. Absalom believed Hushai's words and allowed him to stay with his leaders. Ahithophel now had another advisor working beside him, but Hushai was secretly there to help David. Absalom took Jerusalem without fighting because David had already left the city. Ahithophel entered with him and joined the leaders who gathered around Absalom. Absalom needed to decide what the rebellion should do next. He turned to Ahithophel and asked, "What should we do?" David had left 10 women from his household to care for the palace. These women were David's concubines, which meant they were wives with a lower position. Ahithophel told Absalom to sleep with his father's concubines. He also told Absalom to do this where all Israel could know about it. Ahithophel explained that every Israelite would hear how deeply Absalom had dishonored David. The act would bring great shame upon David and make peace between them unlikely. Absalom's supporters would know that he had completely turned against his father. They would become more willing to keep supporting Absalom against David. Absalom followed Ahithophel's advice. His servants placed a tent on the palace roof, where everyone could see it. Absalom then slept with his father's concubines in the sight of all Israel. Years earlier, David had secretly taken another man's wife and caused that man's death. The prophet Nathan had warned David that someone from his family would take his wives publicly. Absalom's action now fulfilled that warning. Ahithophel's advice showed the rebels that Absalom would not quietly return to David. The rebellion against David was now open and clear to everyone. At that time, Absalom trusted Ahithophel's advice, just as David had trusted it before the rebellion. However, Ahithophel still needed to deal with David and the people who followed him. David had escaped quickly, and his group had not yet reached a safe place. The entire group had crossed the Kidron Valley and climbed away from Jerusalem on foot. Ahithophel wanted to move before David could rest, gather more soldiers, and prepare for battle. Ahithophel did not ask Absalom to begin a long war across the whole country. He saw that David's sudden escape created a chance for one direct attack. Ahithophel stood before Absalom and the leaders of Israel and explained his plan. "Let me choose 12,000 men," Ahithophel said. "I will go after David tonight." Ahithophel wanted to lead the attack himself while Absalom stayed safely in Jerusalem. He wanted to leave quickly and reach David before David and his men had time to rest. His plan did not need soldiers to come from every part of Israel. Instead, 12,000 chosen soldiers could leave right away and travel much faster than a very large army. Ahithophel explained exactly how the attack would work. "I will reach David while he is tired and weak," he said. "I will frighten him, and everyone with him will run away." A sudden attack at night could cause fear before David organized his soldiers. Many people traveling with David were not prepared for battle. They might run in different directions when Ahithophel's 12,000 soldiers appeared. David would then lose the protection of the large group around him. Ahithophel's soldiers could reach David without wasting time fighting every person who had escaped. Ahithophel gave the attack one clear target. "I will kill only the king," he told Absalom. Ahithophel did not plan to kill everyone who had escaped from Jerusalem. After David's death, Ahithophel would bring the other people back to Absalom. He said their return would be like a bride returning to her husband. Absalom wanted David, so the others did not need to die. David's followers would no longer have their king leading them against Absalom. They could return peacefully and accept Absalom as their ruler. Ahithophel believed the rebellion could end with one fast attack instead of a long war. Absalom liked Ahithophel's plan, and every elder of Israel also approved it.
It is good.
The plan seemed good because it could end the fight without killing many people. Ahithophel seemed ready to receive the 12,000 men and leave that night. Yet Absalom did not give the final order. He decided to hear what Hushai would say about the plan. Absalom sent for him and asked him to come before the council. Ahithophel had asked to begin before the night ended, so any delay affected his plan. Every hour gave David more time to move farther from Jerusalem and organize his followers. When Hushai arrived, Absalom repeated the plan that Ahithophel had given. Then Absalom asked whether they should follow Ahithophel's advice. If Hushai disagreed, he would need to give them a different plan. Hushai answered, "Ahithophel's advice is not good this time." He did not say that Ahithophel was always a foolish advisor. Instead, Hushai challenged the plan for that night and tried to make the attack sound dangerous. Hushai needed Absalom to refuse Ahithophel without discovering Hushai's secret loyalty to David. Therefore, Hushai answered Ahithophel's clear plan with specific warnings about David and his soldiers. Hushai reminded Absalom that David and his men were experienced fighters. He said they would be angry, like a mother bear whose cubs were taken. Hushai also said David might not sleep in the camp with everyone else. David was an experienced man of war who knew how to hide in secret places. Ahithophel's soldiers could attack the camp without finding David there. David might already be hiding in a cave, a deep pit, or another nearby place. If some of Absalom's men died first, the news could frighten the other rebels. Hushai continued speaking while Ahithophel's plan waited for Absalom's decision. Everyone knew that David was a skilled fighter, Hushai explained. The men beside David were also known as brave and powerful soldiers. Someone might report that Absalom's men had already lost the first battle. Even strong supporters of Absalom might lose courage after hearing about an early defeat. Hushai said that soldiers with hearts like lions could still become afraid. His warning made Ahithophel's fast attack sound unsafe. Then Hushai offered a different plan. He told Absalom to gather soldiers from Dan to Beersheba. This meant calling men from the northern end of Israel to the southern end. Hushai described an army as large as the sand beside the sea. Gathering that army would take time, but Absalom would personally lead it into battle. The army would search for David and surround every place where he might hide. Hushai said they would cover David's position like dew covering the ground. He claimed that David and his men would have no way to escape. Hushai also explained what the army could do if David entered a strong city. Absalom's soldiers could bring ropes, surround the city, and pull it down into the valley. Hushai said that not even a small stone would remain where the city had stood. His plan sounded powerful because it used soldiers from all across Israel. It also allowed Absalom to lead the great army himself. Ahithophel wanted to leave that night with 12,000 chosen men. Hushai wanted Absalom to wait until a much larger army was ready. Absalom and the elders listened to both advisors before making their choice. Ahithophel asked for speed because David had escaped only a short time earlier. Hushai asked them to wait, gather more soldiers, and let Absalom lead the attack. Finally, Absalom and the elders said that Hushai's advice was better than Ahithophel's advice. Ahithophel did not receive the 12,000 soldiers, and no attack began that night. Absalom's decision ended Ahithophel's plan before any soldiers left Jerusalem. The attack depended on reaching David quickly, so it could not simply begin several days later. Ahithophel's plan was good, but the Lord had decided that Absalom would reject it. God planned to bring disaster upon Absalom through this decision. David's prayer about Ahithophel's advice had received an answer. Hushai secretly sent a warning that David must cross the Jordan River without delay. David and all his followers crossed before Absalom's larger army was ready. By morning, everyone with David had reached the other side of the river. Ahithophel could no longer carry out the attack he had planned for that night. Ahithophel saw that Absalom had rejected his advice and chosen Hushai's plan. He knew David would now have time to prepare for the coming battle. Scripture does not say that Ahithophel argued or offered Absalom another plan. Ahithophel left Jerusalem, saddled his donkey, and started traveling back to Gilo. He had come from that town to help Absalom's rebellion against David. Now, he was returning home after Absalom refused to follow his military advice. Ahithophel reached Gilo and went into his house. He put his household in order and prepared everything that needed his attention.
We understand.
The Bible does not describe each preparation that Ahithophel made inside his home. After arranging his household, Ahithophel hanged himself and died. His family carried his body to his father's tomb and buried him there.